Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to COASTER-net Update. We've got some news out of the Cedar Fair Six Flags conference call on the quarter three results. Quarter three, are we in? I don't even know.
Yeah.
Three.
Yeah.
Where they have said, and it's set the coaster world ablaze again, that they are actively looking to offload some parks. And with the closure of Six Flags America a little over a week ago, this reality has become all too painfully true. Although I don't know how many people really miss Six Flags America. I knew I listened to 20 years of stories of how the place was terrible, but now everyone fondly remembers Six Flags America all of a sudden. So everyone's very upset that it's closed. But now we're talking about dumping more parks. So what do you think, Jeff? What's going on here?
Well, they were kind of harsh in their call. They
Well, they
they
are
they didn't
5 billion in debt. So
they didn't really define which parks they were talking about, of course, but they called some of their parks part of their core business and some of their parks part of their non-core business. And they did say that they would make it a priority to start selling or closing some of these non-core parks. Now, if we're we've always gone on the premise here that we're looking at like Bizarro Cedar Fair calling themselves Six Flags. If we look at their past behavior, they have not been shy about where they invest and where they don't invest. They've let us know a little bit from time to time of where where the feet are going and who's turning the turnstiles. And there's certainly like Kings Island, Cedar Point, Canada's Wonderland, Knott's Berry Farms. We know that those are the parks that they've pegged as they're making us tons of money. They've pegged Carowinds as a place where they can grow, and the other parks have kind of like just kind of meandered along a little bit with little investments here and there.
And
So
I think
we're
what's
starting,
interesting is that we were just recently looking at the surveys and stuff, and we had made the
right,
comment of, well, there's some parks that no surveys were put out about. And I think there's a connection here. And I don't know if you can read too much into it, but you're not going to invest in a park that you are looking to sell because I, for one, don't believe a lot of the theme park roller coaster parks are going to be sold to stay open. I just don't feel like that's what they're trying to do to sell them. I feel that they're going to look at the Six Flags America model and they're going to say this land is way too valuable to sit on here and to sit on and not get the attendance we want, have to worry about staffing, have to worry about insurance costs, and we need to find a way to unload this. They're asking for 800 million for Six Flags America. Now let's put that in perspective. That we just looked it up. They sold California's Great America, the land underneath the park. They just sold that a few years ago for $310 million. So obviously America has a lot more land, but
right.
it's in a very valuable area, that Washington Beltway area, super valuable land. People like, I was looking for, even into Virginia, it's super valuable land out there that they're building left and right still. So I think if we can start looking at those things, one, where have they said that they want to invest in? Okay, I think that we need to look at that. And two, where are the places that actually have valuable pieces of real estate to look into? Because I, I Jeff, I had this conversation with you the other night. I don't
Right.
think that you can sell some of these bigger parks, like let's say Worlds of Fun. I personally don't think Worlds of Fun's on the chopping block. I don't think anything in my mind that I see happening there says that they want to sell this place. But let's say even if you want to sell this place, I don't think you can make that park work as a standalone park with private ownership, even with smaller ownership, just because I don't think the money you need to maintain the place is walking through the turnstiles and it's guaranteed. I think over the course of 5 to 10 years, you make money. I think on those off years, you can offset some of the losses based on things you buy for Cedar Point or for Carowinds. You get deals on the food, you get better deals on everything. Your maintenance, okay, I buy a whole box of wheels from wherever. I buy a whole, 16 loads of hot dogs. I'm saving money every left and right. But if you're trying to run that on the micro scale versus the macro chain wide scale, I don't think that maths unless another park comes in like a SeaWorld or a Dollywood, and they're going to pick up this park, which I don't see happening at all. For any of the parks, that is, I not even just like Worlds of Fun. I'm saying any of the parks that they own. I don't see those parks coming in saying, "Hey, I want this place." You know,
Well, I mean, there might be some opportunities for some smaller players to maybe step up and buy a bigger park than they're used to. But like if we stick with America for a second, like that's a park that kind of competed a little bit with King's Dominion, a little bit with Great Adventure.
yeah.
So if that became if this or if it becomes, I know that the county wants it to stay a park, but I think as a real estate option, it's going to be condos, it's going to be subdivisions, it's not going to stay a park. I just feel like that there's no way that that's going to be something that's viable, especially with the way that they always come in and they strip all the assets out of it. It's just going to be easier to turn it into something else. But like you
And
said,
we've
it's a
already
up and
seen them
coming
stripping
area.
it too. Like we all
Yeah,
like
and
there's pictures out of America right now of them taking basically anything worth anything.
yeah, and we've already heard, from the Dippin' Dots guy that certain trains would maybe earmarked for certain parks. Um, but when we look at the pass holder surveys, like you were saying, there's a bunch of parks that are missing from it. Now, there's some that I think are totally safe. Fiesta, Texas, Knott's Berry Farm, neither of them had a pass holder survey. I don't think either of those are on the chopping block either. But
Although
when you
Knott's
start
Berry
looking,
does sit on very valuable land too,
it
but
does sit
part
on
of
very
that's because
valuable
the park
land.
is there.
But I think at one point they when they had published how many people go into this park because it
Yeah.
is a year-round park, it's about a quarter of their attendance chain wide. Now, having a big chain spread out over the whole country allows it, like if you have a rainy, summer in the southeast, then the parks in the Midwest can kind of carry you through until next season or vice versa. Um, so having parks in different markets and different regions is something that I think they're still going to want to have as part of their core business. So being spread out, I think, is where they want to be. But they also want to have parks for pass holders where they can hop back and forth. So, like, if we stuck in Missouri, if you had to pick between Worlds of Fun and Flags St. Louis, of one being in danger, where would your money go there?
That's an easy choice for me. The easy choice is Worlds of Fun is by far the better park. I don't think, and I know Worlds of Fun gets a lot of hate because it's in the middle of nowhere. It's hard to get to for a lot of different people. Even for me, it's 9 hours. But Six Flags St. Louis has just been lambasted even by Six Flags St. Louis fans for the better part of 15 years that my cousins live in Springfield and they travel to St. Louis a lot and they're just like this park just they just don't do anything with it. It just feels dated. Um I
And that was the formula with Six Flags America as well. Now, the
yeah.
bigger difference is St. Louis is not a growing city, but Kansas City, it's kind of like Carowinds. Like those two areas are up and coming areas. They're areas that seem to be growing in population, and I'm sure that those are areas where the chain is looking at and saying there's potential. If we invest here, we are going to see a return. We see you know, incremental investments in Carowinds, and we've seen smaller investments in Worlds of Fun, but we've been speculating that that's a park that didn't have a survey because they already have a plan for it.
Yeah, exactly. And they just put in Zambezi Zinger a couple of seasons ago. And now if they do something with Timberwolf and RMC it, to me, because let's say you do sell it as a standalone park, you sell it as a park, even if you sold it as a park, you're never going to get that money back. It's just you're just going to get the whole park sale, and it might factor
Right.
in and a new paint job on your house or something. It might entice people to come look at it, but you're never going to get that money back. They say when you remodel your house, if you're going to like redo your bathroom before you sell the house, you're never going to get that money back. Like what you put into it. It's not like, oh, I'm going to get an extra $25,000 on the house by doing it. It's not going to happen. So, if you're going to invest that money, you'd be better off just keeping the money and trying to unload the park. So, if we see what we think is going to happen, which is an RMC of Timberwolf, which is the predominant theory out there, that's what's going to happen. That there's no way that park's going anywhere. Now, go a little bit further north, and you said St. Louis, I'm going to one up you and say Valley Fair. If I think there's three parks. If you were going to unload an actual Six Flags Cedar Fair park, I think the three parks to look at are Valley Fair, because that one has not seen a whole lot of investment. Minneapolis is a growing city. Even though the park is kind of like in the suburb area, it might be developed into something. They've also had environmental issues there with flooding, where the whole back of the park flooded, and I don't know if that was ever rectified. Someone on the comments might be able to tell us. My belief is that it could happen again.
Sure.
So that puts some risk out there. Plus, you have a shorter season. It's colder up there. It opens later usually. It closes earlier. It, and like I said, they just never invested in Valley Fair. What I do, and don't, I'm not sitting here saying I want to see these parks go. I understand. Okay, every park is going to have its home fans.
Of
It is
course.
what it
Yeah.
is. But I'm looking at the whole chain wide and looking at what they've actually done there, which is very little. And that's another park where, just like Six Flags America, there's not a whole lot you're moving out of that park. You're scrapping most of it.
Yeah, and because of its location, it's kind of out there by itself. So as far as like other pass holder value, like, you know, when I buy my pass, I'm thinking I'm going to New England, I'm going to Great Adventure, I'm going to Dorney, I might go to Great Escape, and anywhere else I might travel to any other markets, I know I've got my pass, but all of those places are really easy to drive for me. Now, where you live, you could get to a good four or five parks as well, but
It's eight
not
hours,
Valley
9 hours,
Fair.
no matter which way I go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought the Midwest was so easy to drive
Oh God,
in.
no. So Valley Fair is 8 hours from here. Worlds of Fun is 9. The closest parks are St. Louis, Kings Island, Cedar Point, which are all 4.5, 5, and then
Right.
Dollywood's 9, and then and then Silver Dollar City's 9.5, and so like you have like your core like is 4 hours away, and then outside
Yeah.
of that is like 9, and
Yeah,
there's
but
not a
you
whole
still
lot.
you still have a good handful of parks that you can feel some value with that pass,
Oh, for
where
sure.
they've got some good synergy going between the different markets.
It's not
Um,
it's not like where you live where you can spit and hit a park, like.
I got to drive for an hour to get through the 5 mile stretch of the Bronx, but
Well, that's true. That's true. So like Valley Fair, I think is questionable. Laurent, I
La
like.
Ronda, if I was the Six Flags exec, I like that one as a sale because that one is another one that I think could be sold as a park and it wouldn't compete with any of my businesses, or it might be pretty attractive to a real estate developer because it's waterfront property, it's totally removed, it's kind of got like an exclusive feel to it. It's an interesting place. I could
I
see
would
that
have to see
becoming.
what like I'd be interested to see because like they technically have an agreement with the city to kind of like it's not like it's a special type of lease it said. I didn't look into it, but I wonder if
Mhm.
there's restrictions on what you can actually put there because the other half of the island is kind of like a nature preserve. So I
Okay.
wonder if they're restricted in what they could actually do there too.
I mean, if even if that had to be preserved, I live near a nature preserve. I like that.
Right? They're beautiful, right? It'd
Yeah,
be high-end property, I think.
I think so. Um, I know that some people have been picking on the managed properties like Darien and Frontier City, and I don't feel strongly about those as much because you can't sell those. I mean, they're just managed properties. So I'm not
And
really
and I guess
sure
it
if
comes down to I think the big question is who's paying the insurance. And we're going to talk about a lot about insurance tonight because we all know insurance is skyrocketing right now. I know my insurance went up 30% this year for what I pay. So, and that's just one person. So I can't even imagine what a theme park operator is paying. So if they're fronting those costs and having to push more people through the turnstiles, it might save you money to drop it, but it's not going to be like that big, okay, we're going to cut off $1 billion off our debt. It's just going to be over time, we're going to save 10 million, 20 million, 100 million, who the hell knows, right?
Right. And there's a bunch of standalone water parks that also kind of fit into that same situation. So it's whether or not they're actually generating money or costing money. Because, obviously, like if they're not generating money for the chain, uh, then that could be something that they're looking at just cutting loose.
Well, and if we look at Cedar Fair in the past, I know this is Six Flags, but Cedar Fair years ago went on a campaign to sell all of their standalone water parks. So they sold a few all across the country. They closed a few like Wildwater Kingdom and Jaga Lake. They sold the one in California. Um, and now they have a few more with the Six Flags has a few and Cedar Fair has a few still. And I think the most valuable name out there that they own is Schlitterbahn. And I don't feel that selling Schlitterbahn would be it would be a detriment to pass holders. I've always wanted to go there as a pass holder. When Cedar Fair bought it, I'm like, okay, here's my chance. But for Six Flags pass holders, literally it's just been included in the last year. So it's not even like a huge loss for people in Texas because if you were a Schlitterbahn fan, you probably had a Schlitterbahn pass for a very long time. And now you might have gotten it for free on the Six Flags pass for the last year. And if it goes back to an independent company, I feel like that is a place that has name value, that has it's well developed, that you might be able to turn a profit. And it's not your core business. And I talked a lot about core business on the last show. And you have to identify what is my core business? Am I a water park company? Am I a theme park company? And does this fit with what I want it to do? The only argument against it is that you now have a lot of synergy in Texas between Fiesta and New Braunfels and Dallas and
Right.
Galveston, and you have all this synergy going on. Do you want to keep that because it makes the past more valuable? Or is it more valuable to sell it off and get a few 100 million for it?
I don't
If
know because the standalone Schlitterbahn water park is the one that's in Galveston, Texas, and that is near Astroworld. So that's it's not near their parks where
that's, I
the
don't think that's a
families
Schlitterbahn. I think
live.
that's a Hurricane Harbor.
They've got both actually in that
Yeah, so
city.
they have one in Galveston, a Schlitterbahn, but they also have, was it Spring, Texas? They have a
Yeah, there's
Hurricane
a Hurricane
Harbor.
Harbor in Spring, Texas,
I would say
and
one of those is guaranteed to be sold because you don't need two water parks in the same general
and then
location.
the New Braunfels one is more of a resort, and that
Yeah.
might not be treated the same way as the water park because if you want to like stay on property and kind of have a whole vacation there, just obviously just your pass is not going to do that. So I know that at the Great Escape in the past they'd advertised to pass holders like, hey, you can get a little discount if you stay on property and you can have the whole resort feel and walk across the pedestrian bridge and everything, and have exclusive access to the indoor water park. So
And I do
like
feel that
it's kind of like you get some of it with the pass, but not the whole thing.
exactly. And I feel like if you talk about Schlitterbahn, you're probably talking about the New Braunfels one. You're like they had the Kansas City one, that one closed for obvious reasons way back when. And then they had the Galveston the Galveston one. Um, and that one, like, yes, it's a Schlitterbahn. People, it's a very I've heard it's a very nice water park. But when you're talking about Schlitterbahn, you're probably talking about the
Yeah.
New Braunfels one, and that's because that's the resort. That's the one people always. That's the headliner. So maybe you sell off the other two and just keep the one. Um, they also have the standalone Hurricane Harbor in Six Flags, 15 miles outside of Six Flags Mexico, or an hour outside of Six Flags Mexico, something like that. Um, that's another park that I think could possibly, and maybe you sell off Six Flags Mexico too on top of it. Because like you were saying, it's not really a competition. Um,
Yeah, it's not going to be in competition. It doesn't offer any value to pass holders. It's just like I hear it does well and that it makes money, so it might be an attractive property to sell to another operator, maybe an international operator, or just maybe some speculator down in Mexico or South America that wants to get into entertainment.
and little fun fact here, Mexico City is the most populous city in the Americas, in North
It
America.
is,
I
yeah.
believe Rio might be bigger in South America. I'm not quite sure. Um, but so you're drawing a whole lot of people. You could. So I don't know what their business does down there. They do invest there though, quite a bit, and sometimes they steal from there as well.
Well, I mean,
Sometimes they get a ride
that could have been a good
and
reason.
Cedar Fair's like, nah, 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 nah.
Could have
But
been a
that's
good
one of those
reason not
parks
to
that
put
it's kind of
something big
like,
in there
oh,
too.
that what?
Could have been a good reason not to put something big in there too.
Well, if they identified that as a place that, hey, this is not a place we want to make huge investments in. And I don't know what the international situation is down there, and we know Six Flags is working in Saudi Arabia, so I don't know if just being
That's
international is a barrier.
I don't even think that that's a managed deal. I think that the Saudi Arabian park is like a licensing where they're just kind of
Yeah.
licensing the name and they're getting like consulting fees
But they keep
from for
talking
their
about it as if
expertise.
it's in Saudi. The Saudis like to throw money around, so don't
Yeah.
like there's no doubt that they're getting a pretty penny for using that Six Flags name and having people come out there hopefully. Um, People keep throwing around Dorney, and I feel like the only reason I think Dorney is a question mark is because of its location to other parks, and are they competing with themselves?
So yeah, Dorney is a park that I would be afraid to invest in if I was corporate Six Flags because it's never going to be able to compete with Hershey Park,
Yeah.
and it does have a little synergy with Great Adventure, and there's a bunch of smaller parks like Knoebels and Clementon, and there's just a lot of parks in Pennsylvania just in general.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's one of the ones that's been neglected a little bit, but it did get a new roller coaster 2 seasons ago. I think
Yeah,
that sounds
and
right.
that's why, but that was
It's been there two
also,
seasons already.
and that was before the merger, right? Though, or like, yeah, that planning had to,
That must have been a plan before the merger. Yeah.
yeah. So, and that's one of those places where, okay, so Allentown and Danny Miller is probably the person to talk about this more than we are, to be honest. But
Yeah.
I don't know how valuable that land is there either. Like Philly's growing, and it feels like Allentown's a nice little area, but are you gonna get a few hundred million for that land? I don't know if you will in Allentown.
I don't know. I don't know how big that property really is because I feel like that's one of the ones that doesn't have a lot of space around it because you could see like the neighbors from a lot of
Yeah.
the rides there actually.
Oh, for sure.
Um,
They are
it
landlocked like no one else.
it is one of those like Lake Capounds. Like it's a very long, like Cedar Point. It's like a very long standing tradition of having that be an entertainment, zone. I have a hard time feeling like that anybody would buy that and raise it because it would be like buying a house like built on a graveyard. Like I feel like the locals wouldn't do it. I feel like if they sold it, they'd sell it to a competition and try to crush it, you know?
Yeah, and the thing about Dorney is it's survived against all those other parks for how long, and I've never heard
Yeah.
about it doing poorly business wise. Um,
Everybody who visits it from out of the area always says that they love it and that it's a nice park with charm. And
yeah.
I feel like I'm a little biased that I know I've complained that it's stale. I go there and I have a good time. It's actually the last park I went to recently. Um, you know, but like it feels stale to me because they don't get a lot of investment there. So it's like a lot of times I'll buzz through the area and I'll make a quick stop there, go on a couple rides, and I'll leave. And I don't do that to any other park. Um, I've spent one full day there this season. I think last year I spent no full days there. You know what I mean? Like, but I might have stopped there 3 or 4 times.
And I just feel like it's a nice park. Like, and that's one that's on that borderline of could you operate this as a standalone park in a successfully financial way, because it does have a lot of big rides. You just added an Iron Menace. Like maintenance is real. Like we know for a fact maintenance is real um in these parks, and it's costly and it's expensive, and having that many rides, I'm sure a lot of the stuff is going to have to, like, if Dorney got sold, Demon Drop no way operates anymore. There's no way that ride operates. It's gone. It's dead. It's
I don't
done
want to
so.
think about that.
Yeah. So, and the other one that they always throw out is Michigan's Adventure, and I've always been told by a number of different people that Michigan's Adventure does good business because they have a solid pass holder base, they have a nice little synergy with Cedar Point, and because they don't invest a whole lot, that if you can cover your costs, you're going to make money. Like you're going to make money there.
You know, Michigan's Adventure and Great Escape have something in common as well because they're both like vacation destinations. So there's a constant churn of people who are gonna show up and buy 1 day tickets, which is like the best money you can make.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's a better dollar than your pass holder for the corporation. But it's also a park that, even though they haven't invested in big rides, they've been investing in maintaining the park, keeping it
Yes.
looking good, refreshing the areas, maintaining the rides. I mean, we did a whole show based on like all the maintenance products they did on their wooden roller coasters. But they've been painting everything. Like it's a park that's been spending money to keep itself looking good and to keep its pass holders happy.
And it's a park that is catering to families, that they have a lot of kiddie rides. They added the Camp Snoopy. Little known, only a few parks in Cedar Fair do not have the pre-K pass, and I learned this the hard way. Kings Island is
Okay.
one, Michigan's Adventure is another, because they want that money, because they believe it is a family park, and the water park's always packed, and the main park is sometimes packed, like a lot of times packed. Um, and there's a lot of families there. There's a lot of little kids there. They did cancel their haunt thing this year, which was an experiment they ran for at least one, maybe 2 seasons. They just did a little Halloween fest, and they nixed that this year to cut costs. So
Right.
so the question is, though, is the old for are the old formulas working? And the old formulas were, here's my staffing costs, here's my insurance costs, here's my operating costs, and have those things gotten too big where a place like Michigan's Adventure, who was making money for the last 20 years, is now on that borderline of, is it still making money? And that's the way of the world it is right now. That staffing costs are high, insurance costs are high, operating costs are high for everyone. It's not This is not a theme park issue.
Yeah. So if you were tasked with this job, what are the two that you think are the most in jeopardy?
Well, I think my first move is to get rid of the water parks. That the execs of Cedar Fair, who were running Six Flags, Zimmerman, and now Zimmerman's out and they're gonna pick a new guy, right? Have they done that yet? No.
I don't think they've announced now.
So
He's just
so
out at
so
the end of
he,
the year.
so they've already shown a willingness to ditch the water parks, and I think those are easy sales too, because I think you can operate those, that there are a number of little water parks that operate all over the place. So
Sure.
I think those are easy things to operate at the small scale, because you don't have the same maintenance costs that you do have operating rides and roller coasters, water slides. There's maintenance to them, but I feel like it's easier maintenance. It's like pumps and stuff like that.
Sure, yeah,
Um,
yeah. There's like there's surfacing and stuff like that. I remember like Splish Splash had an issue where some kids rode bikes and skateboards and
mm,
like filmed videos on their slides during
yeah,
the off season, and they said it was like $100,000 to resurface them.
yeah, that I believe that. If I had to go with bigger parks, I think I initially go to Valley Fair, maybe Six Flags Mexico, Luron, the one we talked about. And then there's that issue in California too, where like people are saying Discovery Kingdom, and I'm like, why would you close Great America and Discovery Kingdom unless they have a plan to keep Great America open, which I think is a really long shot at this point, right? That doesn't.
No, I think long term, that Discovery Kingdom is going to coast for a little while, and then once Great America goes, that's when they're going to need to either make a decision: are we going to invest in this property and bring it up to our standards, or are we going to let this one go as well? Um, I think I agree with LaRonde. I feel like that's the best real estate development one if they're allowed to do it. Even if it stayed a park, they wouldn't have to really compete with it.
Yeah.
Um, and Valley Fair, there's no sentimental attachment to the name anymore. Uh, they they have not invested in that place in a long time. So, even just saying we are not spending that much on staffing, we're not operating it, might be enough of a savings to just shutter the place until they can decide what to do with it.
Yeah, and that's the thing is we know costs probably aren't coming down anytime soon. They never do.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you have to find a way to navigate it. And I keep saying I'd love for them to keep Schlitterbahn, but if I look at their whole portfolio and I look at what is most valuable, Schlitterbahn has a name, Schlitterbahn has a reputation that I feel that if you're going to unload a piece now, and if you're trying to make up the 5 billion, it's going to be hard to do. I don't think they're going to do it by selling parks unless you're going to sell a major park, unless you're going to sell Knott's to somebody because you don't want to that you're going to, or you're going to sell Magic Mountain because you don't like are you going to do that? And because you don't want to compete with yourself? Like I don't know how you make
I
up
don't know.
five
I could,
billion
I just can't.
dollars.
Yeah, I can't see how they just give up on that, because you're basically just throwing out California at that point.
It was funny because somebody on Twitter made the argument that if you look at Magic Mountain, that all of their headliners are almost 20 plus years old now. Tatsu, X2, Viper's still there, I think. Riddler, Batman,
Yeah.
like,
So
like the only new rides you have are Colossus, which is 10 years old, and West Coast Racers, which is, whatever. And you want to talk about valuable land, there's nothing more valuable than Magic Mountain's land, besides
yeah,
maybe
but
Knott's Berry.
they do have supports for the glider on property. I mean,
Well,
on site
they've
now.
had those there for a while now. So I don't know. Like unless you're gonna make a big splash and sell one of your major parks, but then why did you do the merger to begin with? Like at some
Yeah, no,
point.
I think by them saying core and not core, they're basically saying we want big and we don't care about little.
Yeah. So and I guess the definition of what is little and I think it comes down to, is it profitable with all your costs now that have dramatically risen to still even operate these parks or run these parks, and what does that look like? So and like I said, I don't think my major thesis here is I don't think we're going to be seeing a lot of the roller coaster parks be sold to stay roller coaster parks. I just don't see it happening. I think they're going to raise them and steal everything they can, and if somebody wants to come in and start over like a Kentucky Kingdom method, then I could see that happening. But I don't see them leaving a whole lot behind to leave to a competition.
Yeah, even old Six Flags didn't do that. They took everything out of New Orleans that they could take. They took
Yep,
everything out of Astroworld they could take. They took everything out of Kentucky Kingdom they could take.
Geauga
That was
Lake.
definitely part of their plan. And we'll have to see what happens to Six Flags America, but I'd imagine it's chop shop.
Yeah, I don't I think they're gonna scrap most of it. I saw someone on the top of Superman on TikTok today too, so that was fun. So they're having real issues there. They're gonna have to get rid of that stuff a lot sooner than they think because you have all these urban explorers now already flooding into the parks trying to climb roller
Yeah.
coasters. Like
Somebody climbed Batwing on the last day of operation.
someone climbed Batwing on the last day, and then I just saw a video of someone climbing Superman at night. That they had a video from the top of Superman. So, okay, cool, but we'll see. I don't know. So anyway, we'll keep you posted. Not good news,
Yeah.
but the
Well,
world continues, so we'll see. As always, I'm Andy Robarchuk from Chicago, Illinois.
I'm Jeff Goodman, and I have bad news for you.
What's your bad news?
I
Just
don't
you're
know, just this whole thing
you're
is bad news.
just bad news. Just bad
Just
news.
bad
That's what we
news.
do here. That's what we do in the coaster world. Bad news upon bad news. So anyway, right on, right warriors.
Good night.